Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Space to Feel. I'm joined today by Zoe. I've known Zoe for about 8 months or something now.
Something like that.
Since last year. And I was really excited to invite Zoe on. I really enjoy inviting people that inspire me onto this podcast. And I think it's really important to share and meet people who expand your view of life and inspire you to dream bigger and to really take intentional action in your life. And Zoe's one of those people for me.
Thank you.
We've been working together for, I'd say maybe 8 months. I approached you at the start to kind of get some mentoring with you, and you're still currently my mentor for my business. So
yeah, I forget that it goes all the way back to April, May last year.
Yeah,
good while.
But yeah, I'm so excited to have a conversation with you.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Also, to give context, Zoe has her own social media agency. How long have you had it now?
Almost 3 years. 3 years in April.
Wow.
It feels like longer. Like I feel like I've been doing this forever. But yeah, 3 years. And I opened up a content and photography studio in October last year as well. Muse studio.
Yeah.
Got 2 businesses now, which is crazy.
Yeah. And I wonder if maybe we can start at the beginning and like your background, how you came to become, a female business owner and not just have one, but 2, and you've got a part-time employee and freelancers working for you as well. So in your sort of earlier days in your childhood, were there always sort of themes that you were going to have your own business? Were you always a bit creative? What was that like?
Yeah, I feel like the writing was always kind of on the wall for me to be a business owner. Like my mum has always owned a hair and beauty salon in our local town. My dad owned a smoothie bar. And not that they're like really massive like entrepreneurs, but I was always kind of brought up around owning businesses, and like I'm an only child as well. So if we were out for dinner and I was out for dinner with my mum and dad, I feel like the topic of conversation would be about business all the time, and I'd kind of be sat there just listening. So I think I was always just kind of tuned into what a business takes. And to be honest, there was a moment, a good few years in my life where I was like, I do not want to own a business, because I heard about all the stresses that went into it, and the staff problems that you have and certain cash flow problems that you can have at certain points. And I was like, you know what, this sounds like a lot of stress from firsthand seeing it with my parents. And I was like, I just want to work up the corporate ladder. So I kind of tried that. But yeah, obviously fell into this. But yeah, like I said, I feel like the writing was kind of on the wall for me. Like, I'm an Aries, I'm an only child. I feel like that kind of leadership and ambition has always been there. And then that paired with having the parents that also own businesses. Yeah, the writing was kind of on the wall for
And did
me.
they kind of talk about that with you? Did they like encourage you to do that? Like,
my parents have always been very good at just whatever you want to do that's going to make you happy. They've never tried to push me in any kind of direction. I think if they can tell that I'm passionate about something, then they would always support me with it, but they would never, try and push me in either one direction. But I mean, I was working in my dad's smoothie bar probably from the age, I don't even know if I could say this, but from like 9 or 10.
okay.
Yeah, he had me in there making smoothies. Also, I was like the same height as I am now when I was like 10 or 11. Like I was quite, like I feel like I developed very early. I was like 5'5", 5'6" when I was about 10 or 11. So I was working at my dad's smoothie bar. Like I met one of my now friends back then, and they thought I was like 16, so I think I always looked a bit older. I was working, so I just progressed quite quickly and into that kind of mindset of leadership, and I've been there and worked, and now I want to do it on my own.
Yeah, and it's amazing starting so young, because I started working as soon as I could. I was 14 and have worked ever since then. But it's amazing at 9, 10 years old. So you were always kind of business minded, I guess, influenced by your parents.
Yeah, and even just chatting to the public and learning how to be with strangers and, then I'd listen to my dad at the end of the day. Like, I'd help him cash up and, you know, just like listening to all the problems and stuff that go on with business. I think I was just always very tuned into that from a young age. Yeah.
And you mentioned obviously that you're an Aries.
Yeah.
I know you're really interested in astrology, and you've mentioned like angel numbers before and tarot. So tell me a bit about how that found its way into your life and what that means to you.
My mum, she hasn't always been really spiritual. There was definitely a point in her life when she started getting into it a little bit more when I was younger. And I was always just like, she is crazy. Like, she's gone out and bought loads of crystals. Like, I don't know what is going on with her. Like, what is going on with my mum? Like, she's turning into a witch. And me and my dad were like, yeah, what is going on? But then I went through it wasn't my first breakup, but it was a pretty big breakup in my life when I was 19. And mum was like, we're taking you to the crystal shop. And I was like,
wow.
Okay. So then I went, and this lady was like spraying me with all of this stuff, and she was giving me these crystals, and I was like, you know, like teary, like crying. But I felt like it had really helped me and like healed a little bit of me, and having these crystals in my pocket that I could just hold on to throughout the day just gave me a bit of reassurance. And I feel like everyone has that time in their life where they turn to spirituality, or they get introduced to it and something resonates with them, which kind of can change your mindset. Because, I mean, not everyone's like this, but I can be a little bit skeptical of things. So I was like, my mum is crazy. But then that time in my life, I thought, this really resonates with me and this has helped me. And that was kind of my turning point, that breakup. I went to the crystal shop, and then I actually started listening to what my mum was saying and started reading books about crystals and got into tarot and like oracle cards, and it really helped me in that time of my life. And I actually went on to create my own crystal healing business when I was at uni. So that was the kind of natural progression into it. But it's always something that, you know, I might dip in and out of it at some points, but it's always there underpinning kind of everything that I'm doing.
And what did you find that it gave you that you needed at that time?
I think it's like reassurance that everything's going to be okay, and looking at the bigger picture and looking into like the law of attraction and manifestation. And I think when you're going through something a little bit tough in your life, you can just focus in on that. But I think when you begin to learn about manifestation, and there is a bigger picture, and you can create you can create the life that you want just by changing your thought patterns. And I think that's what I needed to realise that there were things to look forward to, and you can create that life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think it definitely, I've had a similar experience, not with crystals, but different holistic aspects. And I found as well that finding something that you can lean into that will actually catch you, and it's just like another form of like energy when you need it. And the sort of thing where like everything happens for a reason.
Yes,
that
was something that I was introduced to, like that phrase around that time. And even just that is so comforting and reassuring for you. And I never really thought of myself as being a religious person. So I guess if you were super religious, like that's what you would turn to at tough times. But if you don't have a religion, then you don't really have anything to turn to. So then I think I got introduced to that, and that kind of turned into my sort of religion. I wouldn't say I'm religious still, but even though that is kind of part of it.
But I think, it's having something that can help you when times are hard.
Yeah.
Whereas I think people who, you know, maybe don't believe in souls, or just like very black and white about what's in front of you, that's okay too.
Of course.
But I like feeling that there's hope, or like that
it is that bit of hope, and there is that bigger picture.
Yeah. And I wanted to also ask you about, obviously we've talked about, you know, you've grown up in these environments where business is kind of the done thing, or like your parents are this, I don't even say like inspiration.
Definitely.
And then you went through some kind of push and pull of maybe it's not what I want to do, and then you kind of fell into it. I think you worked at an agency before you started it. So you were doing a couple of businesses throughout uni alongside your studies.
Yes.
Then you went to employment. What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, my journey into kind of marketing world was quite linear, to be honest, because I am somebody that's very creative. So I did like art at A-level, but then I also did maths. I was quite analytical in that sense. And I also did psychology. And I was looking at jobs, like what combines all three of these things. And I think marketing combines those three things perfectly. So I was like, right, that's what I want to do. And once I get my mind set on something, that is what I'm doing. So I went to uni, studied marketing for 3 years at Liverpool. And then I got my agency job literally just before I'd finished my dissertation, which was really sad because all my uni friends were like, woo, we finished uni. And they had all this free time and I was straight into a job. But it was great. I mean, I worked at a marketing agency then for a year in Liverpool. But it wasn't really the greatest place to work. Like, it was a little bit, the environment wasn't what I am used to and what I like as a person. And there was a few of us that were like, oh, we kind of want to leave. And that was the turning point when I thought, right, I can either get another marketing job or I can just give it a go and go freelance. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? I mean, I'm very privileged that if anything did go wrong, then I could just move in with my parents. Very privileged to be able to do that. Not everyone can do that. So I just thought, let's give it a go. And, you know, if it goes wrong, I can become a barista or whatever, you know.
Yeah. And how did you... So there's a lot of risk in that. And I went through a similar process and I was working a corporate job and then I thought, kind of like, screw it, I'm young, like I can make mistakes now when I don't have a mortgage, I don't have kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can go back with my parents if everything fails. So it is such a privilege to be able to do that. But that's not to say it's an easy decision to take.
It's true.
So I'm curious how you deal with risk or uncertainty.
Yeah, I don't know. I was actually having this conversation with somebody the other day and I thought, God, I was so ballsy. Like, would I make that same decision right now? I probably would, because I feel like it's just in kind of what I'm like. But I think when you're a little bit younger, you're a little bit more naive into what it actually takes. And like, luckily I had a glimpse into what businesses kind of take because of my parents. But you never really know it fully until you go through it. So I think I was just a little bit naive, and I think naivety is good sometimes when starting businesses and starting new ventures, because if you knew what you had to go through, you might not do it. So I was a little bit naive, and I feel like I just do have that kind of personality where once I've got something in my mind, I'm going to go freelance, I'm going to do this, I will just do it. And I just started, you know, creating my own Instagram page, started posting. So then when I did leave my job, I had that profile and I'd already built up a tiny little bit of a following on there. Not a very big following at all, but something. So yeah, I think I just do have that personality where it's like, if I want to do it, I will just go out and do it.
Yeah, I love that. And something you said really struck a chord as well about the naivety, which is such a godsend. And I think you do need a little bit of like delusion when you're starting a business.
100%.
I remember a conversation I was having with a friend at the time, and he had a quite successful business, and he was saying to me like, how are you so sure it will work out? Like, it's really scary, And I said to him, I haven't proven to myself that I've failed. That I haven't failed before because I haven't done it before. So I might win. Like, I might be able to do it.
So true. And to be honest, when I decided that I was going to start my own business and I was going to go freelance, there was nothing in my mind that told me that I wasn't going to be able to do it. I think if you are like, I will do everything I can to make this work. I don't do this now. Like, I'm very much about work-life balance. But when you're starting something like that, you have to put the graft in. And I was working from home constantly. I wasn't really going out that much. I was working nights. And I think when you start something like that, you do it because you actually love to do it as well. I wasn't like, oh God, I'm having to grind it out. Like, I was just wanting to, you know, create my own social posts and think about where my business wants to go. Like, it was just something that consumed me, but in the best kind of way at the beginning. And there was nothing in my mind that was like, this isn't going to work. I was like, if you keep working, then it's going to work out for you. And I think if you get rid of that doubt in your mind, and if you're like, this is going to work, then you will do anything it takes to make it work.
Yeah. And I guess as we're talking, I'm thinking about some of my like holistic clients or people in the wellness industry who have something that they want to share with the world. They've maybe had their own therapy, or they've had their own retreat, and they, you know, their hearts are so full, they want to share it, they want to provide it for others, but there can be that risk if you haven't grown up around entrepreneurialism, if you don't have those influences. So if there was like one piece of advice that you could give people who maybe are going to make that jump, or they don't know how to sort of, you know, show up and change the lifestyle to being a business owner, what would you say to someone like that?
I would say learn from other people, and learn from their mistakes, what they've gone through, how they built their business. And don't just go to anyone. Go to somebody that you are inspired by and someone who you look up to, and you're like, I want to be where you are. The business you've built is brilliant, because there is a lot of noise out there and a lot of advice that isn't that helpful. And, you know, some of that advice might be helpful for somebody else, but if they're not building the business and the life that you want to build, then what's the point in listening to their advice? Because it might be building a life that you don't want to live. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think there's something really important about having the right people around you and not feeling like you have to do it yourself. I think there can be quite the perfectionism or like this poison that I think everyone goes through at some point in their life of, maybe I can't start it until it's perfect.
Yeah.
But I also don't have the resources, or I don't have the contacts to lean on other people. So it can be this kind of gridlock.
Yeah, that is true. And I think my other piece of advice would be to just do it, because you can take all of this advice, but that's only going to get you, you know, so to a certain point. You need to actually take action and learn from your mistakes, because also every single person's journey is so different. So you could take tiny bits of advice from people, but then you have to, you know, put that into your own journey and apply it to yourself. So if you don't take that action, you're never going to learn those mistakes. And if you don't start, then you're just never going to get anywhere. I feel like starting is the hardest thing sometimes, but like, say if you did want to start a business, just set up an Instagram page and just start posting on it. Even if it's, you know, you're not selling anything yet, just get people to know you a little bit more.
And I find as well a really big part of like my experience of like setting up my own business has been, it's as much about the business as it is what I'm learning about myself. And a lot of imposter syndrome comes up, and a lot of sort of embarrassment to start, because you're scared people are going to find you who know you from
and you're
other
starting
walks
at
of life.
zero. It's like when you're starting that, so you kind of don't want somebody from school to come onto your page and you've got 13 followers and one post. Like, why does that seem so embarrassing? But it's not, because you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah. And I think is that having that little bit of like delusion, or just like positivity, hope, then I found for me it's been really important to say to myself, like, it's okay that I'm not where I want to be yet.
Yeah.
And just doing it. And what you were saying about like, advice is great, but you have to actually put it in motion. I don't listen to much Gary Vee, but one of his videos, someone had asked him, why do you give out so much information for free? Like, you're always giving advice, da, da, da. And he said, I can give out all this advice because I know 99% of people are going to watch it and not do anything about it.
That is so true. Because my dad, when I first set on my Instagram, he was like, Zoe, do you think you should be giving out all of this advice on your Instagram? And I was like, yeah, because you actually have to do it. And unless somebody's taking every single piece of advice and putting it into action, it's not like they're going to try and replicate my business, or they're going to... It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And I see this a lot with like my clients as well. It's like, because a lot of them are education based, or because they have an interesting service that needs a lot of education around it, I really encourage them to like give as much value, give as much like insight into why they're doing what they're doing, you know, all that stuff. And I get the pushback of, oh, but that's a bit too much, they're not going to book with me. But as well, I've just read a book by Daniel Priestley, and he talks about how give away all the information you can, because people aren't going to not come to you because they have the information. They're going to come to you to implement that information.
Exactly, because say if you're a social media manager like us, you can give all the advice you can about creating a perfect social post, but if you don't have like the Canva skills, the video editing skills and everything else, you're not going to actually be able to implement that. So it's walking that line of giving the information, but then them wanting to come to you to implement it as well.
And there's a big like time constraint around things, because it
Exactly.
can feel really easy to like watch an Instagram video of like all this stuff, and you kind of feel like you're doing it just by watching it. So you kind of get some like dopamine from doing it, from watching it. But then if you don't have the time or the energy or the
and you go to do it
skills-
yourself and you're like, oh, what was that again? What was that? And then you're sat there trying to break down this like really snappy 30-second reel into actually doing it yourself. But it's just not that easy.
And just the amount of saved videos I have.
That I will never see again. I will never watch them again in my life. But, you know, the thought was there.
And when it comes to social media marketing, obviously you help other social media marketers and you provide the service. What was that shift like for you to be sort of like supplying this service for the end client, I guess, in a way, versus helping other social media managers? How does that feel different for you?
I mean, I kind of fell into the whole coaching kind of thing because the coaching world to me is just a bit of an enigma, and I see a lot of it online, and I think a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. Like, I have a weird kind of opinion of what the coaching industry is currently like on social media. So I always thought I don't want to be one of them. That is like hustle, 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 make this, here's how you make £5 million in 2 minutes. I don't want to be that person. So I always thought if I did coach at some point, I wanted to be at a place in my business where I felt like I had enough experience to speak from, because I think some coaches haven't even built that business themselves and they're giving other people advice on how to do it, which doesn't really make sense to me. So it wasn't until 2 years into my business where I was just getting asked by people, and that's when I was like, okay, I've had enough people ask me about this now. I'll start offering, you know, one-to-one coaching sessions with them. And that's how I kind of fell into it. It wasn't because I was like, I want to become this really big coach. It was just because people that were already following me just wanted to learn from me. And I found it the most fulfilling thing, being able to help somebody else. And because it is one-to-one with everything that I do, you can see the effects of it so well after just 1 hour of talking with somebody.
For both parties, I guess.
For both parties. And just seeing them come on board at that, you know, the first couple of minutes, they're like, I'm having this problem, this problem, this problem. Then by the end of the hour, they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for taking that weight off of me. And I feel like so much has been answered. And even just seeing that in the hour is so fulfilling. Because I love my social media management clients, but you don't get that kind of instant gratification, I guess.
And that has been my experience with you as well. Like, because I've ADHD as well, and obviously when I approached you, I was in my first sort of 6 months or 8 months of business, and it can be a really isolating place. And kind of figuring everything out on my own. Like, I didn't have entrepreneurial people around me, so it was like learning about myself, learning about my business and what I wanted to do with it. And just to have you listen and you just simplify, you know, like when all the problems are jumbled in your head, I'm like, I can't see a way out of this. And I remember in our first conversation, you being like, yeah, that's interesting. How about we don't think about the next 3 years and we think about the next like 3 months?
And you were like, interesting concept, yes.
And it really stuck with me. I was saying to you, like, this is what I want to do. You know, I'm very sort of purpose-led, and you're like, that's great. You could do that, or you could make money.
Or like, do you want this to be your job, or do you want to be able to pay your rent, or you could do that. You can do both, but when you're starting, you've just got to think, I need to pay my bills. Yeah,
because I think the side effect of that is I was constantly in fight or flight mode, and that was I'm still my sort of year and a bit of first year of business. It's so that you're learning so much all the time, and you're sort of like testing new ground and stuff like that, and it's a really scary place. You're in fight or flight, and to have someone that just feels so safe because you know these things, and you can say, let's just focus on the priorities, like these are the priorities, just start with this. That is so helpful.
But also I get like that, and it's hard to see it in yourself, because you could come at me with loads of different problems and I could simplify them and do it for you. But when it comes to your own problems, because you're so in it, and you've got a million things going on in your head, like, I could do that, but I could do that. Whereas once you say these problems to somebody else, and I have some great friends that have businesses, and I've got great friends that are really career minded, and they're really great to talk to about these kinds of things, and they help me work through these things. But it's easy to do it for somebody else because you're not in their mind thinking about the million and one things that they've got going on. So it is just having that somebody there to talk to, because it can be such a lonely journey being a business owner, and constantly second guessing yourself if you don't have a business partner or somebody else in your life that also owns a business and has gone through the same things. It can be really isolating, and just having that confirmation and just somebody there to simplify things helps so much. And I remember this kind of friction with friends who didn't understand why I couldn't hang out or I couldn't see them. And it's both a real blessing to be doing what you love. And I remember going to some friends who were hanging out, and I was like, how's work? And they're like, like quite dull about everything. And they'd ask me, and I was like, oh, this has just happened, and oh my God, and that. And for that, I think it's the best thing ever to own your own business, because you really just set the direction of it. But at the same time, it's like, I miss logging off at 5 p.m. and not thinking about it for the weekend. There are so many pros and cons. And you know what? I don't really know who else I've spoken to that's felt like this, that owns a business, but I used to feel really guilty for doing things between 9 to 5 that weren't work. Because a lot of my friends work 9 to 5, or they've got to do like really long commutes in the mornings. They probably leave at like 7:30 in the morning, don't get back till 6. And there I am, like, I'd get up at like 8 sometimes, and then I'll potter about in the morning. I'll do some work, and then I'll go and do a food shop in the middle of the day, or I'll do whatever in the middle of the day. And I used to feel so much guilt, because I'd be like, everyone else is out there like grinding a 9 to 5, and I'm I've got up a little bit later, etc. But actually, owning a business comes with so many other stresses, and I've worked those hours elsewhere. And even just owning a business and having on your mind constantly, oh, this needs to be paid, and this needs to be paid, and I need to do that tomorrow. Even just having that on your mind constantly, it warrants for like having a flexible life. And that's why you have a business and you grow your business to accommodate your life. Whereas I used to feel so guilty for doing these things, because I'd be like, oh God, everyone else is working their 9 to 5 jobs, but also like they didn't take the risk to do this. So it was like a complicated thing, but I feel like it's something that I've got over now. It's so interesting that there's so many like positives and drawbacks. What I found as well is it's been really interesting to navigate the sort of day routine. The working 9 to 5 was originally set up for men to do that. And they're like, I've been looking into as a female business owner, the sort of hormonal cycle and how we can use that to our advantage. I've heard of some crazy stories of like CEOs who tell all their employees when, like, what part of their hormonal cycle they're on. I think that is actually such a good idea. Like, Imi, like my employee, like we always tell each other when we're on, it's like, oh, I'm feeling really sluggish today. And we're like, oh, where are you in your cycle? And you can work with that instead of against it, because you will know that when you have those days in that week where there is just nothing but brain fog and your energy is so low, you can't operate at the level that you're normally at. It's just absolutely impossible. So being aware of that and making everyone aware of that is so important. Like even the guys in my office, I'm really open. I'll be like, starting my period next week, that's why I'm feeling like this, and they're like, oh, okay, because I talk about it so openly. They're so used to me hearing that, and they don't mind, because they're like, well, I'd rather know about this. It's so healthy to talk about it, really, because I think growing up, I don't know if you had this experience, and like more of our parents' generation, you couldn't even say the word period. No. And it was so taboo, and it was like a dirty word. And even between women, like you wouldn't really mention it. And I'm so glad it's becoming more normalized. And I know like in relationships I've been in, it's just, you have to talk about it because it impacts so much. And it's really interesting having so many responsibilities as a business owner to not be hard on yourself and add that layer of like, you know, like punishing yourself because you're not working the same every single day. I would be so bad at punishing myself for not working that hard. But then I would always think, this especially when I used to work from home and I wasn't in an office, if there was any moments where I wasn't working, I'd be like, oh my God, you should be working right now. Like, why are you working? Like, if you want to grow this business, then what are you doing scrolling for 10 minutes?
Yeah.
But then I would think, okay, if I was in an office, I would have got up and made a cup of coffee. I would have gone and spoke to somebody at another table, would have had a meeting that was probably really pointless and like you wouldn't need. So actually, like, working from home and growing your business in that way, like, you don't have to be productive every second of the day and thinking that that's what everyone else is doing, because even in corporate jobs and everyday jobs, like, there are going to be pointless moments. There has to be little breaks, because otherwise you're not a corporate machine, and you're not a robot. You can't be productive every single second of the day. But then I do get moments where I'm at that time in my cycle where I'm like, oh my God, I feel on top of the world, and you can just bang like a week's worth of work out in a day.
Yeah. And it's interesting, this sort of like comparison with corporate life. I find that I have swung somewhat the other way as well, from being so involved in like the wellness community and meditation and Buddhism and like that sort of like being in touch with yourself. When I find myself working evenings like very often because I've overcommitted and I've bitten off more than I could chew with client work, I feel like I should know better and I should be taking better care of myself. So I'm still working, but in the back of my head is like, you should not be working. You should be resting. You should be doing
Why is
self-care.
it though? And I always feel like this. When I need my spirituality the most, it's when I'm forgetting to do it. Or like when I'm in really stressful moments, I forget to journal. I don't do my tarot cards. And I know that they are the tools that help me so much. And I don't know if it's like part and parcel, but when I feel like that, I don't want to do that. But I don't know if it's because I'm not doing that I am getting so stressed. So I'm not sure which one it kind of is, but I definitely know that when I get in these weird mental states or I'm really stressed, I forget the tools of the spirituality that I need to keep my mind open and keep me focused. And so,
and it kind of becomes a spiral.
Yes, exactly.
It's like the worse you feel, you're not doing those, and like you're not getting out and exercising, and you're not eating well, and you're not sleeping well. And the same way on the way up, it's like, start of a new year, let's start the good habits, eat well and run and meditate, and then everything becomes better because of it. But it's so hard to keep that. And I wonder if it's not even realistic for that to keep going on forever.
I always think that, because I do dip in and out of journaling and my tarot, but I think there is actually nothing in my life that I do every single, apart from like eat and sleep, obviously, the things that you need to do. Is there actually anything in my life that I am that consistent with? Because it's just not human to be that consistent and do things all the time. Like, I'm the worst person, even just like taking daily vitamins. Like, if I have to do something every day, I just will not do it. I don't know if there's like some undiagnosed ADHD in me somewhere, but like even just doing the same thing every day, like in that consistency, I just can't do. And I just don't think it is human to be able to do something all of the time. So I think it's so natural to just dip in and out of things. Like that's of course going to happen.
Definitely. And I think just taking moments of self-awareness where we can check in with ourselves. Are we happy with how we're doing things? And I know when we've worked together, there's been quite a lot of like goal setting and like quarterly and monthly or whatever it is to break a big problem down into like little check-in points so you can see how far you've come and if that's all the right direction. And I think there's also quite an interesting theme I wanted to get your views on over like what failure has taught you. I think lots of people are scared to fail. And I mean, we briefly talked about starting a business, it's risky. But a while back, you started a live series on your Instagram, which I loved. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so again, this is something that I didn't carry on. But so I started an Instagram live series with other social media managers and other business owners and just spoke about how it's okay to fail. And it was called the Success of Failure Diaries, where I would bring a guest on and they would give me a failure that they had had, and I would also talk about a failure that I had had and how I'd kind of overcome it and what lessons I learned from it. And I actually got this inspiration from Elizabeth Day. She has a How to Fail podcast and she brought out the book Failosophy, and it's all about the failures, and I just kind of put the spin on it into the business world. I had a lot of guests on. We would just talk about the failures that they had had, and I would talk about mine. And it's just so interesting to know that everyone has failed at some point in their life. but it's just about how you kind of pick yourself up and get up from that, and what lessons you learn, because it's so normal to fail, but okay, like what have you learned from that, and what are you not going to do next time, and what are you going to make sure you do put in place next time?
Yeah. So it's like removing the taboo from failure, because I guess all you see online when you're getting into like running your own business is like, oh, I made £1 million in my first year, and they're all the success stories, because I guess people don't have a reason maybe to share when things aren't going well. It's like a highlight reel of
it's so true
of your life. So could you give us an example like of one of your failures and what you took from it?
This isn't from my current business, and it's a slightly smaller failure, but it's something that has taken me through, and this lesson has taken me through the last few years. But when I had my crystal healing business at uni, so I'd basically bundle up crystals like Himalayan salt and incense, and I would make little bundles for happiness, for anxiety, and they would all have little themes to it. And like I said, when I got into spirituality, it's because I'd gone through heartbreak. So I made one little bundle like for a broken heart, because I was like, surely everyone's going to want that. And I just hadn't really done my market research, and I was like, because that's what I want, that's what everyone else will want. So I got all of these crystals and all of these resources to make these bundles for a broken heart, and I literally sold like one or two, and the other ones I sold so many of, but just nobody was interested in that. And I didn't do my research, and I didn't think about, okay, I'm going to talk to 100 people and see what their concerns are at the moment and create things for them. I just went off what I thought people would want. And I feel like that has taught me so many lessons in business, to not create what you think people need, but to actually talk to people and for them to tell you what their concerns are and their problems. And then you can create a product or a service from that rather than guessing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I can see that. Like, I applied that very often, not so much for products and the business idea, but for how you communicate.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that I talk to, they have a way of like, oh, well, I need to tell people this. So this is just what I'm going to put out on social media. And they don't put themselves in their audience's shoes to see, well, what am I looking for? How do I talk? So it's that translating what's in your head that you want to share to what do people want. It's quite similar, isn't it?
Exactly, because you can, by doing that as well, you can save yourself so much money, so much time, because I'd spent so much money on all of these resources, and then it was just in a pile in my room, and I was like, great, I can't shift all of this stuff because I just didn't do my research. So by just talking to people and getting their opinions and doing that market research, I think is so important for whatever stage you are at in your business.
And what do you think you see people making the most mistakes in? Like, is there a common theme from people you help or your clients? Like, what?
Oh, that is a good one.
avoidable?
What's a common mistake? I think the biggest mistakes that people are making at the moment is just trying to copy everyone else and copy what they see online and copy somebody else's business, but because they think they're doing super well, but actually that they might just be showing that they're doing super well on social media. So I think everyone's kind of following each other, but nobody actually knows the inner workings of everyone's business. Because I've had calls with people before where I've thought, oh, they must have like a good few clients, they must be making X amount of money, and I talked to them and they've got no clients, and I'm like, God, this is not what I would have thought from seeing like your Instagram profile. So I do think that sometimes everyone's copying each other, but nobody truly knows how well everyone is doing. It kind of starts being this echo chamber of like, do this and do this, do this tip, and but nobody actually knows that it works. I think it's just so people can make content.
Yeah, I find that as well. And I think that's related to like this complete lack of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And like when I look on TikTok at what's doing really well, it's getting millions of views. It's like cafe owners sharing what they've made that day, or people saying they're really struggling and like they have to pay their rent and they don't know how. So that gets loads of views. And there seems to be these sort of like the millennial beige, like no personality behind it. It's just like do this, do that. With just no vulnerability.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing missing.
Yeah, and like the millennial beige thing, like everyone has the same aesthetic and everyone uses the same Canva fonts, and it's just like everything is just merging into one and becoming the same. So when I talk to people, the biggest thing that we try and figure out is what makes you different. What is your USP? You know, how is your branding going to be different? How are you going to appear different online? Because everyone is just merging into one person.
Yeah.
And that's that it probably is like the biggest mistake is that why is somebody going to come to you when there's somebody else that looks exactly the same? They're posting the same tips and they've got the same aesthetic. So like everything that I talk about and with creating content about creating your business is what is going to make you different. I feel like that is what everyone struggles with because there is just so much noise online.
You know, it's fascinating. I get really passionate about this, but there's this guy, mainly on TikTok, but he's on all socials, called Justin Schumann. And he's kind of like a personal branding expert. I think he does a lot of things, but something struck me, and it was one of the reasons that made me invest in myself by booking on with you last year, is his whole spiel is that how you show up on social media has a direct correlation on how you're showing up in real life. So if you're not showing your personality in your posts, and if you want to copy other people and you think other people know best and that's what you have to do in your personal life as well, like you're not confident with who you are as a person and you think other people know best and you need to go with the trends, and it's fascinating.
No, it's so true because I remember you came to my event last year and you created a TikTok after about what you learned, and you said something that really struck a chord with you is when I spoke about personal branding and how to know how to create a personal brand and what you should include in your personal brand. And I was like, well, your personal brand should just be you. So if you need to do some self-exploration and find out what your style is and what music you're interested in, and just finding more out about yourself, by doing that, you're going to then create a better personal brand. Because I was saying, like, I love the colour green, so that's my branding, and I love like leopard print and gold vibes. So throughout my profile, you will just see that all the way through because I know that that is what I love. And like in my flat, I have loads of little leopard things. So I then carry that through to my personal brand, but that's because I know what I like and I know my style. And it's not because I'm copying somebody else. That instantly just makes my personal brand different because I know what I like as a person. So yeah, it shouldn't be what somebody else likes. It should just be a true reflection of you. So if that means that you need to dig a little bit deeper into your likes and dislikes, then that's something that you need to do.
Yeah, there's sort of like blurred lines between you and your business. It's sort of like your business is your baby.
It is.
So there's no like kind of cutting the umbilical cord and like sectioning your life off that way. But that's amazing. So with you like knowing yourself and having that personal brand that feels really authentic, I guess that's not different from you in friendships, and like you come off as a very confident person, so it just like affects all areas.
Yeah, definitely. And I think everyone obviously does have different personality types, so it's difficult to say, oh, you just need to know yourself and you just need to be confident, because there's nothing worse than somebody being like, oh, you just need to be confident. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean?
Just relax.
How do I, just relax. I'm like, okay, but how do I get there? Like, or like, be authentic. I hate it when people say that. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, so I think really like even just like taking yourself out on dates and going through your Spotify and creating yourself playlists, and just like, because I love like indie rock music and I know that that is what I like, whereas somebody that just listens to the charts, I'm like, no shade to that. Like if you like that music then great, but if you're just listening to like music because other people like that kind of music, then you know, just go like explore yourself and find out things that you like and what you don't like, and it will definitely be a journey, and your personal brand will then change because you are obviously going to change as a person. You're going to find things out. And also talking about like personal branding and it having to time with your business, that's not the case for everyone and everyone's business. Like if you've got a business where it's not really linked with your personal brand, then obviously it doesn't really matter. But if you're going to set up a business where you're like a freelancer or there's only one or two of you in the business, then obviously having that personal brand is so important.
And I feel also like if you allow yourself to show who you are online, then you're not going to feel like you're living in someone else's shoes. And, you know, I've heard stories of when people are trying to be someone they're not online, and that's still not getting them views and likes and engagement. They'll think like, I'm already not being myself, and that's still not good enough.
Yeah,
it's still not working.
But that's why it's not working, because you're not being yourself. And also like it is a tricky line to tread, because how do you know that you're just copying other people and you're just following something because it's trending, or is it because you actually do like that thing? It's quite difficult, because like I like, I don't know, as an example, like a slick back bun. Like, do I just like a slick back bun because it's trending, or do I like it because I think it actually looks good on me and I like it? It's like difficult to know which it is, I guess.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like linking that back with, you know, your crystal business. And there's this balance, as with everything in life, there's no black or white. You have to be yourself and do things that are aligned. And it has to be in the right context where people, you know, have a hunger for it. But I find that, you know, we were talking about coaches before, and there's a lot of like sort of spiritual coaches as well in the area who I feel like only do it because that's what they think people want. And it's more, and they're not in touch, or they've lost their North Star on why they even started it. But I think that shines through.
Oh, if you had a session with them, you would 100% be able to tell. Like somebody that's like coaching with social media managers, it's like you can tell instantly if they just want to get you in and out, and it's like they just want to chat for an hour so they can get the money off you. Like you can tell if somebody actually cares. And I think that's like, that happens in all areas of life.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting sort of how self-care and business are so related, the sort of the downward spiral. And work-life balance is really important for that. Sometimes you can sort of lose the mark when you're self-employed. But I'm wondering, in your experience, did it take you a little while to find that, to find the right balance for you? Is it a myth? Is there such thing as a good work-life balance? And what do you think the goal is of working so hard all the time?
It's really interesting because I am such a big advocate about work-life balance, because even when we had a little session last week and you were like, so I'm working this day and this day and this day, and I was like, when are you taking a break?
I have been telling people that. I was like, my mentor told me to take a day off.
I was like, so Monday morning, you are just going to potter about in your flat and you're going to have a great time. And you're like, oh, interesting concept. But I'm such a big advocate for it, because otherwise you aren't going to be any good for your own business if you never have a break. And also, what's the point in growing an amazing business if you can't live your life? Like, surely that's why we all have jobs and we all have businesses, is because we want to create and live the life.
It's work to live.
Yeah, work to live, of course. And I definitely went through a phase, and there are always phases, like we said, where you dip in and out of things in life, where there's obviously going to be more stressful times and times where maybe work-life balance isn't as good, but you have that in whatever job you have anyway. But I definitely went through a period in my business where I had like 20 clients and I had about 6 or 7 freelancers working for me, and it was spiraling out of control. I had no time to give anyone, so people were coming on board. It was a big mess. And I was like, I am earning so much money at the moment. Like, I never thought I would ever be able to earn this amount of money at the age of, like, what would I have been, like 22, 23 at that point. But then I thought, like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm not proud of the work that I'm producing. I'm chained to my computer constantly. Like, I'm not able to see my friends or go and do anything. And even when I do see my friends, I'm not present because I'm so stressed. And I was like, what is all of this for? So that's when I really began to strip back my business. I capped my client roster. I made the team so much smaller. And oh my God, everything just started feeling so much better. And my mind was just so much more clear. And I really started to strip it back for a good, like, year and a half. And just now I've got that question in my head of, do you scale up or, like, do you choose peace? And and I'm trying to currently figure out how I can do both.
Yeah.
But I don't want to jump into anything before I have kind of figured that out. And like we said before, you have to just do things and learn. But I have already learned from a few things before. So I'm now just trying to think of my plan, because like, what is the point in building this massive business if then you have to schedule half an hour rest and break into your time? Like, that isn't why I created my business. Like, I want it to accommodate my lifestyle. And I think I was saying to you earlier, like, I love Grace Beverly and she works hard and plays super hard. But it must come with so many other stresses, what she does with so many businesses. And like, when I see her time schedules, I'm like, oh my God, that is intense. And I admire her. Like, she's one of my favorite people. But I'm like, you know that you have to sacrifice so much peace
Yeah.
in order to get there. So it's just like how you do that and just about doing it gradually, I guess.
Yeah, and she talks about how like detrimental it is on her mental health to be working so much, and how she wants an exit plan, and like she wants to be a mum and like not work again. I don't know if she means that or not. But I'm curious, what would peace be for you?
That is true. I think peace for me is not feeling like my head is going to explode because I've got 50 million things on my plate and everything's kicking off and everything's going wrong. And I feel like, especially when you're on your own in business, that you've just got that much pressure on your shoulders and you feel trapped and you don't know what to do, and you feel like you're constantly having to work. You are chained to your laptop, and that stress just isn't what I want to invite into my life.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense of that kind of pitch.
does.
Like in my mind, scaling too quickly, that's what I think, because I've had that feeling before of being so overwhelmed that thinking like you cannot drop a plate because so many things are going to drop, and it's a lot of pressure to have on your shoulders. And I definitely do want to grow my business and invite kind of opportunities in, but I don't want to sacrifice being able to go for a pint after work or being able to go and get my nails done in the middle of the day, and having that. I think flexibility is the thing. Like I love the flexibility of my life, and that's what makes me happy. And I think I don't want to sacrifice that for a little bit more money.
Yeah. That's really important, I think.
Yeah.
And I was having a moment like that where I'm kind of juggling burnout where I am in my sort of life and work at the moment. And, it's bad. And I used to have this in my corporate job, so I know it's not a freelance problem or a business problem, because I was the same in my corporate job, where you feel like you don't have time to cry.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. I'm like, I don't even have... Like, if I cry, I'm going to break down and then I'm not going to want to do work. So I need to not cry. And
it's hard, because being in such a creative role like we are in, how you are in your mental health directly correlates into the work you're producing when it, requires some creativity and inspiration. If that's not where you are, like, you can hide it pretty well, but you can't do it for a long time.
Oh my God, completely. And I think if you are like somebody that's creative as well, something that I've found really beneficial is, you can be creative like online and on Canva, but truly until I like get my paints out, or I go pottery painting, or I do something physical like with my hands, I don't feel like I'm getting that creativity out. And I feel like you can kind of stunt that creativity, that then when I'm staring at my Canva document, I'm like, oh God, I've got to create this, and like I'm not feeling creative at all. So I think getting off of your computer, and if you are someone that's creative, just really leaning into that and making sure that the corporate world and the business side of things isn't taking over your life, because I've definitely got to that place before where I've maybe not focused on my spirituality that much. I've not been creative. I'm just thinking about numbers. Right, I've got to hit this goal and this goal. And you start like really leaning into that masculine energy a lot.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's like, no, take a step back, lean into the feminine, think about your creativity, and then that will help so many areas then of your business.
Staying out of fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing so many podcasts and like research about how bad stress is physically on your body.
Oh my God, yeah.
So I think that's something that I try and do, and I need to try and do better, is just try and stay out of stress.
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done, for sure. But I think a big part of it is what you're talking about, boundaries, of saying no to clients when even, you've got amazing money coming in. Yeah. But having those boundaries and having clear communication of expectations with client when they can contact you, how you're not going to work on a weekend.
Because if you don't have those boundaries, it's not good for you and it's not good for any of your clients. So when I set certain boundaries with my clients, I will always word it in a way that I'm doing this because it benefits you, because it might not feel like it's benefiting them, and it might be annoying that I'm taking this long to respond to them. But if I was doing their work and I had to quickly reply to other people all the time, I would never get their work done. So you've got to put boundaries in place because it's good for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's just like making people think that you're putting boundaries in place for them and not just you.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah.
And I'm always fascinated with the crossover with any conversation that I have on the podcast or in general with like psychotherapy. It's like people are scared to put in boundaries with their loved ones, with friends. but they do benefit everyone because you're not building that resentment or that stress or that burnout.
It's funny though, because I'm really good at it in my business, but then but I think I'm naturally a little bit of a pushover, and I just want everyone to be happy. And I think I'm very empathetic of a lot of people, and I think, oh, you're doing this because of this situation. Like, I've had clients in the past, I've tried to understand and empathize with their situation so much that it's probably then impacting my business. But if I was a man, I wouldn't, like, men, I feel like just are like, no, you've crossed that boundary, you're not doing that, whereas I'm instantly trying to like empathize with them. And I feel that like that a lot in friendships, and I just try and empathize with people all the time, and then sometimes it can be detrimental to me, and it's a theme that I know that this is what I do, and it's something that I've done for years, so I really have to check in with myself when I'm doing that. And I'm like, I try and kind of think about somebody like, would this man in a big company, would he be making this decision? No, he wouldn't. Like, he would just put that boundary in place. Like, what are you doing?
Like, asking for that promotion or asking for more money.
I'm like, come on, get in that mindset.
But I do think empathy is a really important skill to have as a human being. But something that I learned through Buddhism is, we talk a lot about loving kindness for everyone else, but when you say like about developing your ability to love, that doesn't exclude you. So when you're like empathizing with people, you also have to check in and say, is this the kindest thing for myself as well?
I'm the worst at that. Like, I will bend over backwards for all of my friends, and you know, if my friend wants to do something with me, I'll be like, oh God, I don't really have time for that, but I'm gonna fit them into my schedule, even though I probably shouldn't see them that day because I need to do X, Y, and Z. But I think friends for me like are at the top of everything. Like, friends and family are at the top of my business, like over, like, they will trump everything. And rightly so. Like, I think as well, being an only child, like, you lean on your friends so much, and my friends like the best thing in my life. But again, even with your friends, you have to check in with yourself and set those boundaries, because it can be detrimental to you in the end. And it was interesting, like earlier on you were talking about the absence of religion in our communities, but that's how people would come together and form those friendships, and it's true.
that support system, which it was really nice that you got when you went into the crystal shop, that you had your mum and a woman was spraying you, like just having people tend to you when you need it. And I went to an amazing like womb massage, and just having a woman give care and love to my body in a way that it had never been received, just so much like pure
my God, that's amazing.
care. I'd really recommend it.
I feel like that feels like a hug. Like, that feels like...
Yes, and I feel like that's what friends and the right community does. And I found a really nice sort of benchmark to seeing who I'm surrounding myself with is when I started putting in boundaries of, I'm so sorry, I'd love to see you, but I cannot. I will cry if I, whatever. To be met with, absolutely, look after yourself. Like,
of course.
You know? It's beautiful to have that.
My friends are like that as well. Like, me and my best friend, actually, we went and played badminton on Saturday together, and we both had the rest of the day completely free. And my friend was like, okay, I'm going to go back home and write a bit of this book that she's writing. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go home and paint. And it's like, even though like we've both got the day free, we both just want to spend it on our own. It's like, we both love our own time, but we also love spending it with each other.
That's such a green flag with anyone.
We're not like, oh, like, why aren't you seeing me for the rest of the day? I'm free, you're free. Like, what are you doing? It's like, no, we both just love our own space. And I think I attract people into my life that aren't really high maintenance friends, and they don't need to be with me all the time. Because that's what I'm like. And having people around you like that is so important. I think as soon as you start putting those boundaries into place, people might drop off, and that's absolutely fine, because they're not meant to be there for that time in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a wonderful thing that you've helped me through mentorship as well, is if a client, you know, can't afford you, if a client isn't right for you and they drop off, you know, and you get peace of mind from it.
Clients will come and go. It's like relationships will come and go. Friends will come and go. Like, everything just comes and goes. I feel like that's been a theme with a lot of things that we've said, like ebb and flow and push and pull. And it happens with so many things. I think as soon as you realise that, and when a client leaves, I think like that manifestation, spirituality, that is what helps me think of that bigger picture. And I'm like doing my affirmations over and over. And that helps you not go insane when things like that do happen.
Yeah.
In
And it's
business.
that making space for the right thing to come in. Which is so
literally every
beautiful.
client that's ever dropped off, a better client has replaced them, or there's been a reason why they have left, and I've been like, oh, thank God, because they've been the biggest nightmare.
Yeah.
And yeah, it always happens for a reason.
And it's quite a nice theme to say, like, I don't know why this is happening right now, but I trust that it's
and
the
do you know
right
what? It is
thing.
hard, like a good few months, like probably like October, November, even December for me last year, probably the most stressful time in my business. And it's so hard to get out of that mindset once you're in it, of like kind of spiraling. And I just felt like everything was happening at once, and something else would happen. I'd be like, are you joking? Like, does anything else want to happen? And it just feels like everything's happening at once. But once you start changing your mindset, and I bought a new journal in the new year, and I started writing all of my goals down and my manifestations, and I cannot tell you how different my mindset has been. But when you're in that hole, it's so hard to get out and to be like, oh, just get your journal out, because you're like, I don't want to even write this down right now. Your head is so scrambled. So it's not like it's easy, like if you're in that place, to just think positively and just think of the bigger picture. Like, it's fine to feel like that, and you might be in that little hole for a while, but you just will come out of it.
To trust the process. Because I was going to say, like, okay, so if someone's feeling like right now he's listening to this, what can you say to them? Is it a matter of time?
Yeah, I do just feel like it's fine to feel like that. And in business as well, you can be like, I can't even feel stressed or upset because I'm not going to have the capacity or room to concentrate on other things. But I do think the biggest piece of advice would be to just take a break and take the day off, take the weekend off, maybe go away for the weekend and just take a little bit of time for you and clear your head, talk to your friends, because if you just carry on, then there's not really going to be an end to it unless you just, you know, keep on working yourself into the ground or you just keep spiraling. Like, just take a break.
You just don't get the perspective unless you take the break. And it's almost like I'm imagining, like, if you're a sailor and you're on a ship, are you going to set off during the storm when you can't see anything ahead of you? You're just going to chill a second.
Good analogy.
And then wait for the clear skies.
But then also you don't want to take a break because you're like, I have so much to do. And
it's that fight or flight.
It's like,
fight or flight. And I think it takes a little minute to, like, stop and look at what is the worst case scenario and what is going to happen if this doesn't get done, because a lot of the time clients or people you work with are really understanding as well.
I was literally about to say as well, like, I'm not really that ill of a person, but when I have been ill for like a couple of days when I have my business and I haven't been able to work, I'll just message my clients. They're like, oh my God, I hope you're okay, like get better soon. And I think as well, like when you attract those really good clients, you form a really good relationship with them as well, and they're really understanding and you're understanding of them, and you give each other grace. I definitely do think it's like communication and building those good relationships with your clients and that rapport, so you feel like you can say that, you know what, I'm really not feeling great and blah, 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 and they will understand.
And it's just all the time coming back to being human. Like, letting go of the ego of like the business and the lack of vulnerability and just like everyone is people, everyone like is caring.
And I think it's like standing by, like, if I've had clients before which are like, I don't know if this is fair to say, but I feel like older generations don't really think about work-life balance as much, and they kind of grew up a little bit more in that hustle culture, that they expect that off me, and they want calls at like 9 p.m. and they want calls at all manner of hours, and it's just really difficult. And I've bent over backwards for those clients sometimes, and now I've got that boundary in place of, I'm human, this is my work-life balance, and just standing by the fact that you are human. But and it's not bad to, it's not a weakness to be like, I'm not giving into the hustle culture, and just standing by the fact that if I don't adhere to my own boundaries, then I'm not going to be good for you, and I'm not going to be good for anyone.
Yeah. It's that misalignment. Fascinating. And I think just to kind of finish off and wrap up this, really, because we could just keep chatting and chatting.
I really feel like we could.
I think it's so helpful to have that support system that we've talked about, and be able, for me, it's been so helpful to come to you and to have, you know, a really strong business owner who has experience and who isn't like how a man would do business. You have some traits of like that determination of like, you're worth this, know that you're worth this, and let go of what is not meant for you. Just ask whatever. You've been so great with inspiring me with that. But also you have like the femininity and the softness and the self-care, and it's so wonderful to have people like that in your life. Or for everyone listening, like if you don't know people, you don't have people in your life who aren't big dreamers, who don't, you know, have this glass ceiling that a lot of us have. If someone can like inspire you with like, there's more out there and it's easier than you think to get it, just do this and that. Whether it's friends, whether it's a mentor more formally, or if you go networking, it's just such a gift to expand your view of what reality is, because it really is just your mindset, and then your reality can shift.
And if you've grown up with these certain limiting beliefs, it's like you don't even realise that it's possible to not have those limiting beliefs.
Yes, it's fascinating how the mind works.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed it.
I feel like I've just been having a little chat with you. Like,
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And how can people find you and reach you? And
so you can follow me at zjm.marketing on Instagram. And yeah, you can just message me on there if you want to find me on there. At Muse Content Studio as well, if you want to have a look at the Content Studio, which is a new business that I started a few months ago. And yeah, just message me on there if you ever want to get in contact with me.
Thank you so much, Zoe.
Thank you, Emma.
And thank you everyone for listening. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.